listening to the best of the Martha Zoller Show. To hear the full show each day, tune in to AM 550 and FM 102.9 WDUN or log in to accesswdun.com and click the Listen Live button from 9 to 11 Monday through Friday. Dr. Matt Hanley is joining us. He's the CEO of Northeast Georgia Health System, the new CEO. We're going to talk about him, who he is, what his vision is for the future for the hospital system. So, Matt Hanley, welcome.
Good morning. I'm delighted to be here.
Thank you so much. So, first of all, tell us about you and how you got here.
Sure. My journey started when I was young. I grew up. I was born in Philadelphia. At a very early age, about 4 years old, and moved over to Saudi Arabia. My father was a dentist, and he was part of that movement when the Middle East discovered oil, and they needed to import and bring all the infrastructure in. So we were part of that journey. I decided ultimately then to go to college in Massachusetts at College of the Holy Cross. Played football there for 4 years. Was a chemistry major. And then I decided after college, I did took a little time off, did some volunteer work in the Middle East teaching, and then decided to go to med school. So that was when I fell in love with the South, went to med school at Duke down in North Carolina. Then I trained in emergency medicine in Charlotte, North Carolina, and loved it. And shortly thereafter, went up to Virginia. Lived in Virginia, got married just before I went up there to my wife, Aline, and we had our 4 kids up there, practiced emergency medicine and clinical, in a very, very busy clinical setting up there, and then was pulled back to Charlotte, North Carolina, where I worked in Atrium, and that's when I started to get into my leadership journey started, and then was pulled to the Midwest in St. Louis with SSM Health, and all of these roles were in sort of chief clinical officer roles, and then also had the opportunity to lead the Wisconsin market, which was a number of hospitals for our Wisconsin region for SSM, and that was a tremendous experience. And then my last sort of gig was 3 years in the private side of healthcare with an organization called Navis, which we focused on population health and really helping both payers and health systems advance their value-based population health journey. So that was tremendous from an experience perspective, and here we are.
Yeah, and so was there a decision to move from the practice of medicine into administration, or did it just kind of happen organically? Did you wake up one day and go, this is kind of the path I'm on?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. Honestly, when I got out of residency and I went to clinical practice, leadership was never on the radar. And it's one of those things that, certainly as a physician, part of my big motivation is wanting to have impact and to help people. And so invariably when you move into a community like I did in Virginia, in addition to your clinical care, people are going to ask you, hey, could you help out? And so it was just part of my DNA to say, yeah, I'm happy to help out. And so sooner or later, a little bit of leadership activity turned into more and more.
And that's the way it always is.
And the next thing you know, here we are. But I often make the joke that I used to like working my night shifts, and people ask you, why'd you like to work the night shift? Is because I said, well, it's the easiest way to avoid the administration. And here I am, right?
Yeah, it's so funny because I've told you before we got on, my husband was a primary care doctor, and he's always taking his own call. Okay, yeah. So even now, and when he's the doctor at the jail, we get calls, text messages all throughout the night.
Yeah.
And I laugh with him because, I always got up with the kids, and he got the calls in the middle of the night. Well, the kids are gone and grown, and he's still getting calls in the middle of the night, So it's just the way it happens. But I always found it so amazing when they could just and I'm sure you could do this too, being in emergency medicine. You just go from a dead sleep into analyzing something and then spouting out orders. It's like just something you're trained to do, right?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I being an emergency physician, you get trained to be adaptive to whatever comes in the door at any time. And not only that, you're also I grew up in an environment where you had to deal with all types of different people. not only from a patient perspective, but also from the physician base, if you think about it. I had to successfully interact with primary care physicians, all the way up to your cardiothoracic surgeon to ensure that I got the right care for my patients. So
absolutely.
Great training.
So, I guess at some point in time, this gets on your radar, Northeast Georgia Health Systems.
Yeah.
So tell us about that journey a little bit.
Yeah. So, as like a lot of these things, you get a knock on the door at some point. And I had a national recruiter reach out to me a little over a year ago and asked me if I wanted to have a conversation. So, at that point, my wife and I definitely were interested in coming back to the Southeast. We missed it and, love it. And so, was easy to take that phone call. But, what was most important to me was listening and learning about the cultural foundation and the core values of Northeast Georgia Health System. And I have certainly through my years experience, accumulated a fair amount of experience. And what I've learned is that culture and core values are so critical for a health system to be successful. And what I loved about us was the connection that we had to the community, that relationship and trust we had with our community. I love the pride that people have in the organization, and frankly, the commitment to patients and doing the right things. And that when I started to learn about that, and sort of peel back the onion, one conversation after the next, and then I started to meet the board members, you could see that this wasn't just talk. It was deeply ingrained in who they were and what they believed. And so that level of commitment to me was just critical. And frankly, just, for me, it made me feel like I was winning the lottery. So, being here is just so grateful to be here.
So you come here, and of course you come here right at the time when basically they're doubling bed space at the main campus.
Yeah.
They've opened a new ER, which you know a lot about. I'm sure I wouldn't be surprised if we're going to see you down there helping out sometimes.
Yeah.
But this is going on. Of course, they've added a lot of other things the health system has. And, it's a really exciting time, also juxtaposed with how difficult the health situation is and how difficult a lot of components are to managing a large health system like this. I mean, the good news, I guess, is that over the last 15 years, even in good economic times or bad economic times, the healthcare sector has grown throughout all of that, even in the tough times. How do you look at that as it relates to Northeast Georgia Health System?
Yeah, well, I mean, the first thing I would say is we're not coming into a situation that's broken, right? The leaders who came before me, Carol and others, have been incredibly thoughtful about thinking about the health system, positioning it, and then investing capital and money into the areas where we think will provide the most benefit. So right now we're in this season of seeing a lot of those investments come to fruition. So we opened the bed tower in February. We're opening a rehab hospital in a couple of weeks. We have a new medical plaza that's opening on Flowery Branch. We had some unexpected things that weren't on the radar, but are great news. So the Longstreet partnership that's coming up. All those things that are coming to fruition are part of a well thought out plan that will really position us well for the future. And so I think those things, in addition to the cultural and the core value foundation, position us well to deal with, I think what you're talking about is a lot of the uncertainty that people are talking about in healthcare that will frankly always be there. But it positions us very well to do what we need to do and be successful and committed to the community in the future.
What do you see? Because, look, healthcare's probably changed. Healthcare delivery's changed dramatically. I have my own thoughts about what's good and bad about that. But what are your biggest concerns about healthcare delivery and how it relates to the health system?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. The thing that I think about the most, certainly as a physician, what I've realized, and I've become very convicted about, is some of the things that are most important to people is the value of that human connection, right? In other words, we're a people business, and at the heart of what we do is we're people taking care of people. We're people taking care of our community, and we exist only for the community. And so I think that being fiercely protective those core elements that should never become commodities, that should never go away. That's the heart and soul of, to me, what I think about a lot in terms of, and I know we're going to grow. You've already talked about it. It's just part of, where we are and what we're seeing. But as we grow, how do we be really thoughtful and intentional about keeping the core values alive, keeping the community commitment alive, and keeping that sort of individual human connection and relationship alive in terms of how we take care of patients and continue to be compassionate and empathetic.
We did get a recurring question when people found out that you were coming on today, and it had to do with the relationship with United Healthcare and where we are right now. So I don't think that's an unexpected question. I'm sure you get it everywhere you go. Can you just update people on that?
Yeah, sure. And well, thank you for the question. Certainly, I have been, getting brought up to speed on the issue, and so I can, I'll be very transparent. Where we are now is probably not the answer that everyone wants to hear, and that we're still working with United in hopes of resolving this situation. And I know it's on the mind of certainly a lot of Longstreet patients who, with our partnership with them, that they're asking the question, will I be covered when we, do the consummate the partnership at the the end of the year. For us, staying committed to our core values is incredibly important. And there are some things that for us, when we think about being in partnership and relationship with the community, are non-negotiable. So, things like United, we have a set of standards with all the other payers that they've all agreed to, and United won't agree to them. So, there are little things like deciding whether to pay us for services after we've provided the services, which you can imagine is puts us in the community in a difficult position. Having different, deciding which hospitals or potentially which clinics are in or out of United coverage, which creates a ton of confusion, and it's not consistent with how we see providing great community care. So it's a difficult situation for sure. We are again very hopeful, and we continue to negotiate in good faith. And we're very hopeful we'll have good news in the fall. But we'll keep you updated.
So a number of years ago, I think some organization said the biggest lie of the year was, if you like your doctor, you can keep them, and the relationship to Obamacare. My view is, I think the biggest lie ever told is you can't get health care if you don't have insurance. Okay, obviously you want people to be insured, but you also want people to interact with the healthcare system if they need it, right? So I don't think people are aware, and maybe you're not aware enough yet, but the medical center has lots of options for people to be able to be seen. You don't want people to wait for care either, right?
Not at all.
So I think it's important for people to know that you all do have resources where someone can come in and be seen, and don't say, I'm not going to the doctor because I don't have insurance.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, well said. And in the ideal situation, we'd like to be completely agnostic to what your payer situation is. And honestly, if you show up on our doors, we're going to see you. Do what we need to do and work, figure out what we need to do on the back end. But absolutely. So
one of my pet projects that I've worked with you all for probably, since 2008 on, is early lung cancer detection. And we're going to be talking to Dr. Gersch in the next hour. But this is kind of a healthcare related show. And that's something I've worked with Angie Caton for years about.
Wonderful.
About that. That's one of those areas that I think we're really leading the charge now, because it's kind of one of the cancers that got forgotten for a while, that people thought, we just told everybody to quit smoking and now we got it solved. Well, there's a lot of other reasons why people get lung cancer.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I'm excited about that. Is that something you were aware of before you got here?
No, it's definitely something I've become more aware of, and I'm learning a lot.
I know it's like a fire hose, right?
It's one of the biggest onions I've peeled in my life for sure. But listen, we have so many bright spots within our healthcare system that I'm learning about, and the lung cancer screening is one of those, and so those and others make me incredibly excited for what the future holds for us.
And it's the community involvement. Now, how's your family transitioning? Everybody where they need to be right now?
Yeah, we're so I'm married. I've got 4 kids, and our youngest will be coming with us to Gainesville. The other 3 are launched into the college stratosphere, so to speak, and they'll be coming in the mid-July.
After school's out, after all that stuff, right?
So we're excited, but we're very, very excited. So
we've seen you at Rotary a couple of times, so I hope we'll see you there more often. But the community is a great community. Yes. You know, we jokingly say, I've lived here 35 years, but I'm not from here, but it's still a welcoming community, a wonderful community. And Northeast Georgia Health Systems is such a huge part of that. What is what's your overall philosophy?
Yeah, no. Well, first of all, the community has been incredibly welcoming to me, and it's one of the biggest reasons that I came here. I mean, listen, as I said before, we as a health system exist for the community. I mean, and without the community, we don't have a reason to exist. So that relationship between the health system and the community, to me, it's like family. Yeah, the tentacles are deep, and we will be more strong the stronger that relationship is. It's and so you're going to see me in the community, and as part of my onboarding, I've been very focused on inward in the organization, meeting people. But I have started to start poke my head in the community. So we definitely saw each other at Rotary and some other places, and so there'll be more of that moving forward. Because
have you been to all the campuses already?
I have been to all the acute care campuses and a bunch of the clinics. But as we have hundreds of locations, so it'll take a little bit.
I'm very excited about the growth of hospice, because I think they're the unsung heroes of the medical profession. There's going to be a new facility up the road on Thompson Bridge Road, which my husband and I have been very involved in. And, it's an important thing. And, what I hope happens is that people understand more about that part, even though it's the part you don't want to think about. It's an important part.
Yeah, thanks for bringing that up. It's always been a hard, I think, for Americans in general. That season of life has been a hard cultural conversation, and so I think doing it really well, is consistent with just a sign of respect and our core values, sign of respect and being compassionate, to our community and our patients. So I'm excited as well.
It's where North Georgia comes to talk. It's the Martha Zoller Show on AM 550 and FM 102.9 WDUN.
Dr. Karen Gersch is a thoracic surgeon, and there's a number of reasons why she's one of my favorite people. One, she is in a male-dominated specialty in medicine and doing a fantastic job. She seems to have mastered the work-life balance kind of part of this in a very, very difficult specialty. But also, she is a person that is after my own heart because of her work in early detection of lung cancer. And so we've been working for a long time to get her on the program, and we're so happy to welcome her today. Dr. Gersch, thank you so much for being with me today.
Well, hey, Martha, I'm so happy to be here. I'm so excited, and you're one of my favorite people as well.
Thank you very much. It's a mutual admiration society. But, we ladies got to stick together, that's for sure.
We do. We have to, as they say, fix each other's crowns and lift each other up, and that's exactly what we're going to do. And we're going to drag everyone along with us as we lift people up.
That's right. That's exactly right. So listen, just for people that may not know what you do, give them just kind of a thumbnail of the early detection work you do in lung cancer and then your just general work.
Sure. Well, I am a cardiothoracic surgeon, so I'm a board-certified both cardiac and thoracic surgeon, and I specialize in robotics and minimally invasive. So I split my time between minimally invasive robot coronary revascularization and also my love, which is of lung cancer. So at Northeast Georgia, I came here 2 years ago, and we have a phenomenal group of people who have like-mindedness, where we embrace the future and embrace technology for the love of making people's lives better. We found that there was a little bit of a deficiency in how quickly we were identifying lung cancers in our community. Now, when we identified them, we did a great job at it, for taking care of folks who had cancers, but we pushed ourselves to say, how can we be better? How can we capture lung cancers Early, because most of us who have lung cancer have zero, and I mean that zero symptoms, until it's too late, until we have advanced stages. Then your survival is really not what it should be, and the suffering that comes with that. And gosh, in our community, we deserve better than that. So we had a group of us who got together and said, how can we embrace technology and use artificial intelligence, use all the tools that we can use in a safe way to detect nodules, little spots on the lungs of folks who are getting CT scans for other reasons. Who knows? You fell off your tractor, you flipped your car, you got a CT scan, you've got a broken collarbone, but also there is this tiny nodule. How can we keep track of those folks in a way that we can follow them and make certain that these small nodules don't turn into something more problematic? And we've done that. We've done it quite successfully in a comprehensive way. And along this journey, we know that many people who have these small nodules in their lungs, that they very well may turn into a cancer. So if we can catch these cancers early, I mean when they're the size of a pea, not the size of a grapefruit, but the size of a pea, and localize these using technology, robotics, minimally invasive, localize these nodules and resect them before they're large, and you go home the very next day, then your survival for sure is going to be exponentially better, the quality of your life exponentially better. And we've done it. We've done it successfully. Our patients are thriving. We're charged and energized to bring more folks into the fold so that we can meet our patients where they are and say, hey, look, you got this little spot. Let's use all technology to figure out, is this something that we need to act on? And if so, do not panic. We got your back. We're going to use robotic technology. We're going to couple little small poke holes, looking down your airway, using artificial intelligence to guide us out there to biopsy this little sucker. And then, gosh forbid, if you have to go to surgery to have it taken out, we can get you through it. We're going to get you through the surgery. You're going to go home the next day. And you're going to drive your car back to see me in a couple of days.
So, for example, somebody comes into the emergency room. They've had some sort of accident where they're going to get a chest X-ray. Does that person get screened?
So, no, the X-ray is not a very good tool for screening. So that is not where we have to point our ship.
Okay.
Someone comes in and they've had a CAT scan. And everyone listening has had a CAT scan for gosh knows what. I have spine problems, or I have an aorta problem, or I fell off my tractor. Any CAT scan, we now have the ability to screen through those scans that we're actually looking for something else. But, oh, by the way, we found this little nodule, and we're going to funnel you down a pathway so that nodule is acted on, that it's surveillance, that we don't forget it.
So that was my next question. So, for example, I don't mind using my own situation where I went in for my regular physical. I was a little borderline on cholesterol, not anything to worry about, but a little borderline. It's happened twice. And so my primary care ordered a calcium score CT that I went in for at the imaging center there. Would that have been looked for that?
100%.
Okay.
Now, prior to now, it would be relying on a human.
Yes.
And humans, we're all pretty good. But if we're really like, oh, I got to look at Martha's calcium score, and her score is really good. What about that little tiny glimpse of that little spot in the corner that maybe the radiologist didn't see? That doesn't happen very often, but it can happen. Well, now we have the extra assurance of artificial intelligence coming behind our humans and saying, hey, also there is this. And then the humans go back and really vet it and say, you know what, this is legit. So it's a triple view. We have checks and balances so that it flags us to act on something that maybe we wouldn't have acted on beforehand.
Is there a family history component to this? Is that something that, because when my history, my sister, mother, and father died of lung cancer. And at the time they died of lung cancer, what I was told was that that it wasn't certain there was a family history connection because this was 15 to 30 years ago. But that if they had my family history, they would do a CT scan on a regular basis. And I did screening CT since 2008 under Dr. Hastings' care. So I've done that, and I've been fine. and they do them every 2 years now. But do we have a family history connection now?
We don't have a perfect answer for that quite yet. But all of us intuitively know that there's a family history component. But how do we prove that? Well, we're still working to genetically identify what is that family history component so that just like folks who have certain breast cancers, we can specifically test for genes. We don't have that capability yet, and I put an exclamation point behind that yet, because we really are, for the first time in civilization, seeing survival improvements with lung cancer. 26% increased survival over the last 5 years, which is unheard of in lung cancer because of our advancements in understanding the genetics of this, understanding the molecular markers of these cancers. So hang tight. Right now, all we can say is like, you know what, this is suspicious. I'm going to keep my eye on you because we don't have definitive information saying that there is a genetic problem with you. I shouldn't say problem, genetic difference. But there will be 100%. In the meantime, like you said, we do screening. Screening is very important, where we look at someone's risk and say, okay, you've been smoking. You're age 50 to 80. You've been smoking for years. Let's say you have a 20-pack year history, 20-pack year. I smoke 2 packs a day for 10 years. 2 times 10 is 20. I smoke 1 pack a day for 20 years. That's a 20-pack year history. So if you're 50 to 80, you have a 20-pack year history of smoking. Or if you've stopped smoking within the last 15 years, you're eligible for a screen where your insurance will pay for it. Then there should be nothing holding you back to go get screened. Again, the screening is important. And Dr. Hastings, who we all love and know and who's brilliant, appropriately screened you and said, let's keep you in the radar. So if you're out there listening and you know you fit that 50 to 80, 20-pack year, I've smoked 1 pack for 10 years or 2 packs for 2 packs for 10 years, 1 pack for 20 years, if you fall into that criteria, you got to go rattle some cages and say, I need a screen.
Yeah.
If we find stuff early, I can promise you we can get you through just about anything with a 1% risk, where you're going to go home the next day. You're going to do fine. Waiting and having symptoms of a fancy word we call hemoptysis, where you're coughing up blood, or God forbid you're having headaches because you have a tumor in your brain now, that is not where we want you to be. We want you to be early.
So we're talking to Dr. Karen Gersch, and she is just an amazing thoracic surgeon for a cardiac thoracic surgeon, and works on lung cancer early detection, which is just great. So you're in probably one of the toughest specialties in medicine. I mean, it's not easy. What was your journey like, just before we go? What was your journey like? Because there weren't many women in your class.
Well, there's still not many women. So right now, of the cardiothoracic surgeons on the planet, we represent less than 3% of all cardiac surgeons, which is cardiac and thoracic, which is women, and that has not really improved over the last 50 years. So there's not many of us. I think I was the number 200th woman. I was number 200 to have my American Board of Thoracic Surgery board certification. There were thousands of men, and I was number 200 women since the 1940s. So that's saying a lot right there. The journey was, I always knew from when I was an 8-year-old kid, and I was a farmer. We were farm kids. I did not have a mother that was a lawyer. I did not have a father who was a doctor. My father was a police officer, came back from Vietnam, was a helicopter pilot, and we had a big farm, and we grew up barefoot, fishing for catfish and, getting eaten up by mosquitoes, just like everybody else who grows up on a farm. But I looked to my mom and dad when I was 8 and said, I'm going to be a cardiothoracic surgeon. I don't know where it came from. And my dad looked at me and said, just work really hard and make straight A's.
Your dad said, done. What is that?
He said, I told him I had to get off this farm, because anybody who's out there listening who has been brought up on a farm, that ain't easy work. And I was like, I had to get off this farm. So I made straight A's from that day forward. And I never looked back. I just knew I was going to be where I was going to be, and I was not going to be dismissed. And along every part of this journey, I've been dismissed, but I'm just annoying enough. I'm like, whoa, don't dismiss me. You're going to hear me out because I have value and I have a tenacity and I have faith that God put me here to do this, and by goodness, I'm going to do what He put me here to do.
Well, and you have you say you're tenacious and all that's true, but you have a very positive attitude, and a positive attitude overcomes a lot.
Oh, yeah. I think when you know you're put here on earth to do something that's bigger than you, it's not about you, it's about something bigger than you. And not a lot of us really embrace that like we should. It may be in the back of our minds that I'm here for a bigger purpose, but I can't do that. I'm a farmer. Yes, you can. And so just embrace it and do it. And I'm like the living example of it. I've done it, and I've done it in a male-dominated profession, and I'm internationally known for what I do, and I love what I do, and I love my patients, and we do a great job, and I've been blessed to land at Northeast Georgia, and the folks here are the same. They're like mirror images of me, and I've found my little niche with a whole bunch of folks who just love people and do something that's bigger than us.
If people want to know more, or they might have some concerns, how can they interface with the system?
I think the first thing to do, and I know this sounds like, well, go to the website, go to Northeast Georgia's website. B, if you have a primary care physician, you have a voice, and it may be that your primary care is affiliated with another hospital system, but you have a voice, and say, hey, I'm really interested in going to Northeast Georgia. Then do it, and make sure that you're heard. And don't be fearful of speaking your truth. So we're always here. We're always wanting to have new patients. Our office, we're always taking phone calls and emails, and I have the best group of people on the planet who call you back, not a human. As much as I love technology and robotics, I do not want to talk to a robot.
No, and I can attest to that. The staff at your office, at your practice, is amazing. I mean, I have to call sometimes, and because you're in the same practice with Dr. Hastings, and everybody's great. You answer the phone quickly, you get back to people quickly, and that's a culture that you have created in your office.
Correct. Well, people deserve it, and we're blessed to be able to sit face-to-face with people who are experiencing perhaps the hardest thing they've ever experienced. And that is not taken lightly by any of us, that we have been put here and put in the pathway of someone who's really struggling. And the last thing that person needs is a dang robotic answering machine. So we're not going to do that. We're going to answer and say,
hey, it has been so great to talk to you today. Thank you so much for your time, and we'll get you in here in person next time.
Absolutely, and we'll have to have dinner and go out on the town. I don't think that you and I actually do that, but it sounded good.
No, I think we will find time to do that. That'll be great. Thank you so much, Doctor. Appreciate it.
Oh, Martha, you as well, and you stay blessed, and I really appreciate all that you do.
To hear the full versions of last week's Martha Zoller shows, go to the podcast page at accesswdun.com, and you can follow me on social media at Martha Zoller.